Hi, I'm Umika Mashru.
And I'm Wyatt Staggs.
And I'm Tyler Mick.
So we're currently seniors enrolled in the University of Puget Sound, taking Professor Lynnette Clare's Strategic Consulting and Management course. This past semester we've been working in close collaboration with Brian Humphreys and the City of Lakewood's Human Services Department. So our goal has been to basically provide a consultation process for Human Services to help identify possible areas of development and organizational growth. Given the short duration of our consulting process, we have basically made it our goal to, once we leave, to still equip Lakewood Human Services with the tools necessary to continue this development process long after we've gone.
In terms of the methodology, we looked into the internal and external environments of the City of Lakewood and Lakewood Human Services. Just to give you a little bit of an overview of our research, based on our research, the most problematic areas in Lakewood Human Services are the barriers to internal alignment. We touched up on this in our presentation with Brian, but we decided to keep it more broad for this presentation. As a baseline, we just came up with this mission statement that essentially provides a framework for our recommendations and Lakewood Human Services moving forward. And this mission statement is to foster the promotion and preservation of a diverse, compassionate community in Lakewood for present and future generations, accomplished through engaging community partners who support initiatives directed towards promoting these values and assisting Lakewood's most at-risk community members.
So our goal in creating this mission is to have basically a mission that can embody all of the work being conducted by Human Services, and it can be displayed front and center in the top of the Human Services Department. So we intentionally left this somewhat broad just so that it's easy to relate to the various initiatives and programs within Human Services, and in doing so you can better understand how each program factors into the department as a whole. So as Tyler had mentioned, one of the biggest areas we've seen in Human Services pertains to the lack of general alignment throughout the department, and we feel it could be bolstered to an extent. So one of the most problematic areas or sources of this alignment and difficulties revolves around Lakewood's Promise. Now, at the time of Lakewood's Promise being incorporated into the city back in 1998, the 5 promises upon which it revolves around were a really good opportunity to help organize the city's efforts into addressing community issues. Now, these 5 promises were generated by the America's Promise Alliance in order to give different communities across the nation a sort of template to organize community efforts to address these issues. And at the time it was implemented, it was a really great solution for Lakewood. However, since then, Lakewood's community has evolved, and as such, the different social issues it's facing have coincidentally risen as well. Due to that, we believe that it's time for Lakewood to adopt a more custom-tailored approach to addressing their community needs. And as such, our recommendation would actually be to forego the 5 promises in exchange for having Lakewood's Promise now align under the future generations aspect of the Human Services mission we generated. Going off of that, the advisory board, the purposes of which would change slightly. We view the individual qualifications of these 9 members to be potentially very useful tools for Human Services, and we believe that there are certain areas where they can be better utilized. Going off of this, we would recommend that the advisory board members now be responsible for communicating with schools, universities, and other community entities about the various events and activities taking place in Lakewood. Beyond this, we believe that the advisory board could have a better system of collaboration with the community collaboration board headed by Brian Humphreys. So we recommend that the advisory board now be responsible for generating a series of questions which Brian can present to the community collaboration, in which he can collect answers to and responses, which he can then present back to the Lakewood's Promise Advisory Board to help them identify potential areas in which community necessitates being addressed. Now, our goal in doing so is to essentially create a feedback loop which will raise communication levels within the department and just create a better dialogue with community members moving forward.
In terms of the Lakewood's Promise website, we think it's essential that this needs to be revamped in order to effectively communicate with those vulnerable communities in the city of Lakewood. Essentially, our idea and recommendation moving forward for this website is to create or to make it an information based resource for people who are in need of these resources. Essentially, it would focus on the essential needs of the community provided by the Community Needs Assessment Survey that Brian shared with us, and be a way of communicating with the people of Lakewood.
And going off of that, our goal is to basically create a resource for all Lakewood's community members who will be able to access information about every service and program offered by Human Services, and also to create a space to essentially better instill a narrative about the most prevalent community events going on and problems as well. Another aspect of Human Services which we feel could be potentially better utilized in order to create value for the department pertains to their current community partners receiving grants. Now, our observations and research show that these partners are already one of Human Services' most valuable assets, but we believe that the connections that we do have with these community partners could be revamped essentially to provide more value. Now, going off of that, our recommendation would be to have a more systematic and universal assessment procedure which would operate on a yearly or bi-yearly basis for community partners. Now, Brian had mentioned that he does already do site visits on a yearly basis for these partners, but there isn't really any general systematic approach to doing so. Our recommendation would be for Human Services to generate a universal document which then the community partners would be responsible for filling out and submitting to Human Services on that yearly or bi-yearly basis. Now, the contents of this document would be more objective-based questions, including number of individuals served, grant allocation, utilization, program outcomes, and commitment to equity, as well as other things. Now, our goal in doing so is essentially to be able to have a better point to compare the work being done by community partners, and also to identify areas which could potentially necessitate more action. And as far as accountability goes, we'd recommend that these partner surveys be a stipulation of the grant allocation with penalties for failing to do so. In our research, one of the most impactful tools we've used to basically identify areas of growth for the department have been the organizational health chart. Now, how this works is it assesses an organization on the basis of 9 elements of organizational health, in which it then ranks these 9 elements on the basis of either being ailing, able, or elite. Now, research shows that businesses don't actually need to achieve elite status in 9 out of the categories in this organizational health chart to be considered successful in their organizational health. But rather, research shows that if a business or organization can achieve elite status in 6 out of 9 of these, then they have an 80% chance, increased likelihood to be in the top quartile of overall organizational health. Now, we believe that this could be a really useful tool moving forward, due both to its ease of use and insights it provides. We'd recommend that Brian or Human Services conduct an overall department assessment using this tool at least once a year moving forward. Now, our goal in doing so is to just essentially create more opportunities for Human Services to identify points of development.
So with identifying our new partner opportunities for Human Services, we looked at other partners around Washington City that specialize in helping their communities with homeless prevention, youth mental health, and employment opportunities. And in our research, we showed Auburn Human Services and Federal Way Human Services. And in our research, we found that Auburn has a site called Phoenix Rising, which is a transition home for youth 18 and up, and they give them safe housing, but also develop soft skills through their program called Recovery Cafe. And then we also found Federal Way Day Center, which helps with providing free laundry, access to showers, food, and a case management system. So moving forward, and in our conversations with Brian on Monday, those 3 areas, homeless prevention, youth mental health, and employment opportunities, are 3 areas that were targeted, and we think that Human Services could use the templates that Phoenix Rising and Federal Way Day Center accomplishes, and create innovative and solutions to help Lakewood's community thrive.
And the reason we bring these 2 facilities up is because as Lakewood's community continues to evolve, we believe it's essential to coincidingly look for new opportunities to address social issues, and looking at neighboring communities and how their strategies might manifest is a great way to do so.
And then in terms of the Human Services Assessment Plan, we provided Brian with essentially we feel that it's important for Human Services to continuously assess themselves as a department and through the Community Needs Assessment Survey, the needs of the community.
Now, we kept today's presentation somewhat short and a little bit broad intentionally, just to give you guys a great overview of what our work this semester might constitute. Now, if you have any additional questions, we do have a full report which we provided Brian with, so I'm sure he could help you in understanding any areas that we might not have fully expanded upon. Now, that being said, we do want to acknowledge that our recommendations are by no way the ultimate solution to the problems taking place in Lakewood, but rather we view them as potential steps in helping Lakewood move forward to addressing these problems fully. We also want to acknowledge that we recognize that we're not going to be solving issues such as homelessness or poverty in our short consultation project, but our goal was to equip Lakewood Human Services with the tools necessary to best go about doing that in the future. Our aspirations for our work thus far have been essentially then to give Human Services an opportunity to continue to identify these areas of development, and we hope that they will continue to do so long after our project is ended. But that being said, we want to thank you guys for listening to us today, and if there's any additional questions, feel free to reach out. We'd be happy to answer. But it's been a great privilege to work with Human Services this semester and a really valuable opportunity, and we hope the recommendations we've provided can help Human Services moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you.